found my maid sitting on my kitchen floor at 3 a.m, sobbing into the tiny heads of 2 babies strapped to her body, one on her chest, one on her back. And when she looked up at me with those swollen, terrified eyes, I knew my entire world was about to shatter. Let me back up, because what happened next doesn't make sense without understanding how we got here. And trust me, by the time I'm done, you'll understand why I made the choice I did. The one that cost me everything and gave me everything all at once. My name is David Cole, and 6 months ago, I had it all figured out. At 34, I'd built a tech company from nothing, sold it for an amount that still doesn't feel real when I say it out loud, and bought a penthouse in the city that came with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view that made visitors go silent. I had the life people dream about in their cubicles, the life that's supposed to make you happy. But I wasn't happy. Hey friends, thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to comment where you are watching from. Someone close to you might be watching too. Like, share, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a story. Make sure to watch till the very end, because the final twist is something you definitely don't want to miss. So let's continue. My wife, Victoria, was beautiful in the way that makes photographers beg for just one shot. We'd been married for 3 years, and somewhere in year 2 I'd stopped recognizing her. Or maybe she'd stopped recognizing me. We moved around each other like ghosts in that big apartment, talking about dinner plans and vacation spots, never about the fact that we'd become strangers who shared a bed. That's when I hired Lily. She showed up on a Tuesday morning, sent by an agency, wearing jeans that had been washed so many times they were almost white, and a smile that seemed too big for someone applying to clean rich people's toilets. She was 26. With dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and hands that never stopped moving, like she was afraid if she stayed still too long, someone would notice her and send her away. "I work hard," she said during the interview, looking me straight in the eye. "I don't steal. I don't gossip. I just need this job." There was something in her voice, something desperate and honest, that made me hire her on the spot. For 3 months, Lily was just part of the background. She came in early, left late, and the apartment always smelled like lemons and lavender when she was done. Victoria barely acknowledged her existence, too busy with her yoga classes and charity luncheons and whatever else filled the days of women who didn't need to work. But I noticed Lily, not in the way you might think, not at first anyway. I noticed how she'd stopped to water the plant by the window, the one Victoria said was already dead. I noticed how she'd arranged my books by color when she dusted, creating these little rainbows on the shelves. I noticed how she'd hum while she worked, old songs that sounded like they came from another lifetime. And I noticed how she'd go completely silent whenever Victoria came home. It was small stuff. The way Lily's shoulders would tense up. The way she'd make herself smaller, like she was trying to disappear into the walls. The way Victoria would leave messes right after Lily had cleaned, just to watch her clean them again. "That's what we pay her for," Victoria said once, dropping an entire glass of red wine on the white carpet, her eyes locked on Lily's face. "Isn't it?" I should have said something then. I should have seen what was coming. But here's the thing about people like me, people with money, people with power. We get good at not seeing things. We get good at pretending everything's fine, because acknowledging the mess means we have to clean it up. Everything changed on a Thursday night in September. I came home early from a meeting around 7 and found the apartment dark except for a light coming from the guest bedroom. The one we never used, the one at the end of the hall that still had boxes from our move stacked in the corner. The door was cracked open, and I heard crying. Not sad crying, angry crying. The kind that comes from somewhere deep and broken. I pushed the door open. Lily was sitting on the bed, phone pressed to her ear, her free hand clutching her stomach. She didn't hear me come in. "I can't come back," she was saying, her voice raw. "Mama, please, I can't, because I have nothing. I have nothing to bring home. I send you everything I make, and it's still not enough." She listened, tears running down her face, and then her voice dropped to something that sounded like begging. "The babies need me there, I know they miss me. Tell them Mama loves them. Tell them I'm coming back soon with enough money to—" She saw me then, standing in the doorway, and her face went white. The phone slipped from her hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered, scrambling to stand up, wiping at her face with her sleeve. "I'm so sorry. I should have asked before using this room. I just needed a quiet place to—" "You have kids?" The question came out harder than I meant it to. She flinched. "Yes." Her voice was barely there. "Twins, a boy and a girl. They're 7 months old. They're with my mother, back in my hometown, 4 hours away. I can't afford an apartment here and childcare, so I send money home and I visit when I can and I—" She broke down again, right there in front of me. This woman who I'd seen scrub my floors and fold my clothes and smile through every day, crumbling like she'd been holding herself together with tape and prayer. "I'm a terrible mother," she sobbed. "I had to choose between keeping them close with nothing or leaving them safe while I work, and either way I lose. Either way they grow up without me." Something in my chest cracked open. I'd spent 3 years in a marriage with a woman who didn't want children, who flinched whenever someone brought up babies at dinner parties, who'd made me promise before we got married that kids were off the table. I'd agreed because I loved her, or thought I did, or maybe just because I was tired of being alone. But standing there, watching Lily fall apart over children she'd sacrificed everything for, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt something real. "Take tomorrow off," I said quietly. "Go see your kids. I'll pay you for the day." She looked up at me like I'd just offered her the world. "Really? Really?" That night after she left, I sat in the dark living room and thought about my life, about the emptiness of it, about how I'd built this empire of nothing, surrounded myself with expensive things and empty people, and called it success. Victoria came home around midnight, smelling like wine and someone else's cologne. She didn't even look at me as she walked past. Over the next few weeks, something shifted. Lily started staying later, not because she had to, but because we'd talk. Real talks. About her kids, about her dreams, about the life she wanted to build, about how she'd left an abusive boyfriend who drained their savings on gambling, how she'd fled with nothing but her babies and her mother's address, how every dollar she made was a step toward bringing them here, to the city, to a real life. "I want them to have chances," she said one night, folding laundry in the kitchen while I pretended to work on my laptop. "I want them to go to good schools. I want them to never feel like they're not enough." "You're a good mum," I told her. She smiled, but it was sad. "Good mums don't leave their babies. Good mums do whatever it takes to give their babies a future." Something passed between us then. Something dangerous. Victoria noticed, of course. Women like Victoria always notice when they're losing something they never wanted in the first place. She started coming home earlier, started asking questions about why Lily was still there at 8, 9, 10 at night, started making comments about how attached I seemed to the help. "She's just an employee, David," Victoria said one night, her voice sharp. "Remember that." But she wasn't. Not anymore. I was falling in love with Lily, and worse, I was falling in love with the idea of her children, these 2 babies I'd never met, who existed in photographs on her phone and stories she'd tell with her whole face lit up. It was wrong. I knew it was wrong. I was married. She worked for me. The power dynamic alone was a nightmare. But when has knowing something's wrong ever stopped a heart from wanting it anyway? The night everything exploded was 3 weeks ago. I came home to find Victoria in the bedroom, Lily's phone in her hand, scrolling through messages with a smile that made my blood run cold. "Your little maid has been telling her mother about you," Victoria said sweetly. "About how kind you are, how different from other men, how safe you make her feel." She threw the phone on the bed. "How long have you been sleeping with her?" "I haven't. Don't lie to me." Her voice cracked like a whip. "I'm not stupid, David. I see how you look at her. How you light up when she walks in the room. You never looked at me like that. Because you never let me." The words ripped out of me, months of silence breaking open. "You married me for the money and the status, and we both know it. You don't love me. You don't even like me." She went very still. "No," she said softly. "I don't." but you're mine, and I don't share. That's when I heard the front door open. Lily, coming in for her evening shift, calling out a hello that died in her throat when she saw us. Victoria turned to her with a smile. You're fired. Pack up whatever cheap belongings you left here and get out of my house. Lily's face went grey. Please, I need this job. I can't. Not my problem. Victoria's voice was ice. You should have thought about that before you decided to seduce my husband. I didn't, Lily's voice broke. I would never. I just... Get out! I watched Lily run, watched her grab her bag from the closet, her hands shaking so hard she could barely hold it, watched her look at me one last time with eyes full of betrayal because I just stood there silent, useless. The door slammed. Victoria turned to me. Now, where were we? I packed a bag that night, told Victoria I was done. The marriage was over and I'd make sure she got everything she deserved in the divorce, which was a lot, but I didn't care. Money was just money. She laughed in my face. You think you're going to ride off into the sunset with the maid and her little bastard babies? You think that's how this works? I'll destroy her, David. I'll make sure she never works in this city again. I'll call immigration. I'll call child services. I'll burn her entire life to the ground. She's a citizen, I said quietly. Doesn't matter. I'll find something. I always do. I left anyway. Stayed in a hotel. Tried calling Lily, but her number was disconnected. Tried the agency, but they said she'd never checked in after that last shift. It was like she'd vanished. For 2 weeks I searched, drove to her mother's town, but the address she'd given the agency was a vacant lot. Asked around, but no one had heard of her. It was like she'd been a ghost all along. I started to think maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. Maybe Victoria was right. Maybe I'd built up some fantasy in my head about a woman I barely knew, about a life I could never have. Then came last night. I couldn't sleep, so I went back to the apartment around 2 a.m. to grab some documents I needed for the lawyers. I still had my key. The place was dark, and I figured Victoria would be asleep or out at some club like she usually was. I was wrong. The apartment was empty, cleared out. Everything of Victoria's gone. Her clothes, her photos, her ridiculous collection of designer bags, all of it vanished. And sitting on the kitchen floor, surrounded by empty space, was Lily. She had 2 babies strapped to her body, one in a carrier on her chest, one in a wrap on her back, both sleeping, their tiny faces peaceful against her. She was crying so hard I thought she might choke. Lily! She looked up at me, and I saw everything in her face. Terror, exhaustion, relief, shame. I'm sorry, she whispered. I had nowhere else to go. She came after me, David, your wife. She found out where my mother really lived, and she went there, and she threatened to take my babies if I didn't disappear. So I took them and ran. I've been sleeping in my car for 2 weeks. I've been driving around the city every night because I was afraid if I stopped, someone would see us, would call someone, would take them from me. She was shaking all over. Then tonight my car died. Just stopped on the street 3 blocks from here, and I had no money for a tow, no money for a hotel, no money for anything. I still had the key you gave me months ago for emergencies, and I thought maybe the apartment would be empty. Maybe I could just rest for one night. Just one night where my babies could sleep somewhere warm. She looked down at the children strapped to her body, these 2 tiny humans who'd been through hell because their mother had the misfortune of working for the wrong people. I'm a terrible mother, she said again. I'm failing them. I sat down on the floor next to her. You're not, I said. You're the strongest person I've ever met. And then I did something crazy. I offered her everything, not in a creepy way, not in a sleep with me and I'll save you way, but in a I have more money than I'll ever need, and you have children who deserve a chance, so let me help way. Stay here, I said. Victoria's gone, I don't know where, and I don't care. The apartment's mine. Stay here with your babies until you figure things out. No rent, no strings, just stay. She looked at me like I was speaking another language. Why would you do that? Because someone should have helped you a long time ago. Because the world's been cruel to you for no reason. Because... I stopped. trying to find the right words. Because maybe we're both looking for something real, and maybe we can help each other find it. That was 3 months ago. Here's what happened next. Lily and the twins, Sophie and Jake, names that make me smile every time I say them, moved into the guest bedroom. Not my bedroom, the guest bedroom. Because despite what Victoria thought, despite what anyone might think, this wasn't about sex or romance or some billionaire fantasy. This was about family, the kind you choose, the kind you build. Lily got a job at a bookstore downtown, something she actually loved, something with normal hours. I paid for childcare at a place that didn't make her cry when she dropped the babies off. I set up college funds for Sophie and Jake because 7-month-old babies shouldn't have to worry about their future. And slowly, over weeks and months, we became something I'd never had before. We became real, not perfect. God, not perfect. There were hard days. Days when Lily would panic about owing me too much, about what people would think, about whether she was failing her children by accepting help. Days when I'd wonder if I was just replacing one fantasy with another, if I was just a lonely rich guy playing house. But then Sophie would reach for me with those tiny hands, or Jake would laugh at something stupid I did, or Lily would look at me over morning coffee and smile like I'd hung the moon, and I'd know. This was it. This was the thing I'd been missing my whole life. The divorce from Victoria was ugly. She fought for every penny, claimed I'd abandoned her for the maid, painted me as some predator who'd taken advantage of a vulnerable woman. The tabloids had a field day. My reputation took hits I'm still recovering from. But here's the thing about reputation. It's just what strangers think of you. And strangers don't matter when you've got 2 babies learning to walk in your living room and a woman who looks at you like you're worth something beyond your bank account. Last week, Lily and I were sitting on the couch, both twins asleep on us. Sophie on my chest, Jake on hers, and she said something that made everything make sense. "I used to think I had to do everything alone," she said quietly. "I thought asking for help made me weak, made me a bad mother. And now? Now I think maybe being strong means knowing when to let people in, means building a family that's bigger than just blood." She looked at me. "Thank you for letting us in." I kissed the top of Sophie's head, breathed in that baby smell that's somehow both sweet and sour at the same time. "Thank you for giving me a reason to be better." Here's the twist you weren't expecting. Victoria came back last month. Showed up at the apartment with tears in her eyes and apologies on her lips. Said she'd made a mistake, said she wanted to try again, said she was even willing to accept the twins if it meant getting me back. I almost laughed. "You don't want me," I said. "You want what you lost. There's a difference." She looked past me at Lily standing in the kitchen with Jake on her hip, and something ugly crossed her face. "You really chose her? Chose them? You gave up everything for—" "I didn't give up anything," I interrupted. "I found everything. And you can't understand that because you've never had to fight for anything real in your life." She left, and this time, I knew she wouldn't be back. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. Regret blowing up my life for a woman and 2 babies who weren't mine. Regret the scandal, the gossip, the way old friends stopped calling and business partners got awkward at conferences. I tell them the same thing every time. I regret the years I spent pretending. I regret the time I wasted being someone I wasn't. I regret not finding Lily and Sophie and Jake sooner. But I don't regret a single second since that morning I found them on my kitchen floor. Yesterday, Sophie took her first steps, walked right across the living room into my arms, this tiny human who I've watched grow from a sleeping bundle into a person with opinions and favorite foods and a laugh that sounds like music. Lily cried happy tears this time. "I never thought we'd have this," she said. "I never thought someone would choose us." "I'll choose you every day," I told her. "For as long as you'll let me." Jake's starting to say words now. "Mama" was first, which made Lily sob for an hour. "Dada" was second, and he said it while looking right at me. And I'm not ashamed to say I cried too. Because here's the final truth, the one that took me 34 years to understand. Family isn't about blood. It's not about DNA or legal documents or traditional paths. It's about who shows up, who stays, Who looks at you on your worst day and says, "I'm not going anywhere"? Lily showed up with nothing but 2 babies and a heart full of hope. And somehow, impossibly, she gave me everything I'd been missing. Next month, I'm adopting Sophie and Jake officially. The paperwork's already filed. Lily cried when I asked her permission, said she'd never imagined her children having a father who actually wanted them. "They're mine," I told her. "They've been mine since the moment I saw them sleeping on your body on my kitchen floor. I just need the papers to prove it. We're moving next week, not to somewhere bigger or fancier, but to a regular house in a neighborhood with sidewalks and other families. Somewhere Sophie and Jake can ride bikes and make friends and be normal kids. Somewhere we can be a normal family. Whatever normal means anymore." Last night, after the twins were asleep, Lily and I sat on the balcony and looked out at the city lights. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked. "Your old life?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "I miss the quiet," I admitted. "Babies are loud and messy and they wake up at insane hours." She laughed. "But would I trade this for that quiet? For that empty apartment and that empty marriage and all those empty days?" I shook my head. "Never. Not in a million years." She leaned against my shoulder. "I love you," she said. Simple. True. "I love you too," I said back. "All 3 of you." And sitting there, with the sounds of our children breathing in the next room, and the woman I love warm against my side, I finally understood what people mean when they talk about being home. It's not a place. It's not a building or a city or even a country. It's the people who see you completely, broken parts and all, and decide you're worth staying for. It's 2 babies who weren't supposed to be mine, but are. It's a woman who came into my life to clean my flaws and ended up cleaning my soul. It's messy and complicated and nothing like I planned, and it's absolutely perfect. This morning, Sophie threw up on my favorite shirt. Jake knocked over an entire cup of juice on my laptop. Lily burnt the toast because she was trying to stop Sophie from eating a crayon. And I laughed. Actually laughed. The kind of deep, real laugh that comes from joy instead of politeness. Because this chaos, this noise, this beautiful disaster of a life, this is what I was missing all along. I found my maid carrying my twins on her chest and back at 3 a.m, and what happened next? I became the man I was always supposed to be. I became a father, a partner, a person who matters to someone. I became home. And if you're out there reading this, wondering if it's too late to change your life, wondering if you've already made too many wrong turns, wondering if happiness is something that happens to other people but never you, let me tell you something true. It's never too late. Your family is waiting. Maybe they don't look like you expected. Maybe they're not related to you by blood. Maybe they're 2 tiny humans and their fierce mother, showing up in your life when you least expect it. But they're there, waiting for you to be brave enough to let them in. 3 months ago, I had everything and nothing. Today I have Sophie's hand in mine while we practice walking. I have Jake's laugh when I make silly faces. I have Lily's smile when I come home at night. I have everything that matters. And to anyone who thinks I'm crazy for throwing away my old life for this, you're right. I am crazy. Crazy enough to believe that love is real, that family is choice, that sometimes the best thing you can do is let your perfect life fall apart so your real life can begin. The twins are crying now. Both of them, in perfect harmony. Because apparently 7 p.m. is meltdown hour in this house. Lily's calling for backup, and I'm going. Not because I have to, but because I get to. Because this is my family, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Not even for all the quiet, empty, perfect days I left behind. Here are the moral of the story. True wealth isn't measured in money. It's measured in the people who need you, and the people you're brave enough to need back. Family is about choice, not just blood. The strongest bonds aren't always the ones we're born into. Sometimes our real family is the one we build with people who see us for who we truly are, and choose us anyway. Strength means knowing when to accept help. Lily thought asking for help made her weak. She learned that real courage isn't doing everything alone. It's being vulnerable enough to let others carry you when you can't stand on your own. What looks perfect on the outside can be completely empty on the inside. David had the penthouse, the money, the perfect marriage, and none of it mattered because none of it was real. Sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you wanted to find what you actually need. Love shows up in unexpected packages. David wasn't looking for a family. Lily wasn't looking for rescue. 2 tiny babies weren't looking for a father, but life brought them together anyway, proving that the best things in life are rarely the ones we plan for. Being a parent isn't about biology, it's about showing up. Anyone can create a child. It takes someone special to choose a child, to fight for them, to love them, when the world says you don't have to. Real character is revealed in how we treat people who can't benefit us. David could have ignored Lily's struggles. She was just his maid. Instead, he saw her humanity, and that choice revealed who he really was beneath the money and status. Sometimes the biggest risk leads to the greatest reward. David risked his reputation, his marriage, his social standing, everything society told him mattered. And in return, he got the only things that actually do: love, purpose, and belonging. Don't wait for the perfect moment to choose love over comfort, people over possessions, or meaning over money. That moment is now. Your real life, the one that actually matters, is waiting on the other side of your fear. All you have to do is be brave enough to reach for it. Dear friends, what you just saw is only one part of the bigger picture. In the next video, I'll reveal the twist no one saw coming, so make sure you're here when it drops. I would love to know what you would have done in this situation. Drop your thoughts below. I'll be reading every single comment. Thank you so much for watching. I love you so much, and don't forget to give this video a like, hit the subscribe button and share with someone who needs to hear it.